This is it really has to be done in greater detail. I didn't have the time to go blow this up and do one at a time. I have it, but it was too much for the length of this talk. But these march the nodes, and most of the south nodes are within this realm from Pisces over to Sagittarius. And most of the north nodes are from Gemini over to Virgo. All the north nodes on one side, all the south nodes on the other side. So, but they're different in terms of when something goes north or south. So you can see there's lines going to just all. I think I have this of the nodes going to each of the planetary orbs. So I may come back to this. But the nodes, if you take it to the sun's equator, there's a yellow line. Okay, so you can't see it too well here, but the yellow lines, they're not like an arrow. They're like a solid arrow. You can see them if you look up in Sagittarius here. You see these yellow lines. That's where the south node would be of the equator. When somebody's going south of when a planet would be going south of the sun's equator. I'm getting the sunspots again, a whole other level of interpretation. And on the other side, it would be when it's coming north of the sun's equator. You're looking from the sun, but when you're looking from the planet, now also at the same point, if you go follow from the north node of the sun's going over the equator, you'll see this plus, this yellow plus. That's when you're at the highest, when the planet is at the most northerly point to the sun, most highest up to the sun. On the opposite side, there's just a line that's there, and it's the lowest point to the sun. So you can see how high or low, again, in the solar system something is to the sun or to each planet. Okay, when you're dealing with the nodes, like there's one other factor. You have the nodes when it's crossing the orbital planes. So whenever anything's touching a node of a planet, that planet's going to have a more powerful direct effect on that orbit, on that planet. But if you get to there's one other factor. We have our seasons of the year. One of the factors, if you're trying to understand any planet, every planet has the same factors, that half the year daylight's increasing, half the year nighttime increasing, half of the year daylight is greater, half the year nighttime is greater. The same factors and the same leading to a zodiac. Each planet has its own seasons. It has its own year. It has its own zodiac, its own seasons. And so the seasons that we use the color for the seasons. We have our tropical zodiac put around the outer bend here because we're looking from the Earth at this. But if I want to do a chart for Mars, in this chart, you'd see Mars here is over in Capricorn, but it's between the green and blue. So in its own season, it's in the fall. It's in between Libra and Scorpio in its own season. So if you're going to spend a spaceship up to Mars, are you going to go there and land? Are you going to go and try and be there in the winter or in the summer? Or in between when it's not too hot or not too cold? Normally it's going to be fairly cold, so you probably try and plan it so you're being there in the summertime. But if you're going to go the other time of year, you'd probably land on the other half of the planet that would be the warm, that would have the winter, that would have the summer half. Okay, and then this is the mechanics of weather on different planets. But when I started these things back in the 70s, we didn't know the seasons or the equinoxes and solstices of Pluto. And even it was questionable what was there about Mercury. And now we have so much more information. This data is available, you can get it, and this formulas we were able to made much more specifically. So here we have the seasons for each planet. I mean, which is more important, whether I have Uranus in Gemini or Young has his Uranus in Leo? Now it's interesting that Uranus in Leo is actually, it's summertime here, it's summertime in Uranus. So, but like you could have, let's see, similar, they're each slightly different to each other. So the planet's position in the sign of the zodiac we're looking at means one thing, but the season the planet is in its own orbit, that's a whole other thing. So if you're sending a spaceship to another planet, you want to do a chart for that planet, you have to do it for the zodiac of that planet, whether daylight's increasing, night's increasing, and it's based on the year. The years are different times. We have our 365-day year. That's considered the one standard. Mars' year is just under 2 years. So each zodiac sign would be just about 2 months. But it's not synced up the same as us. When we have our summer, Mars is having its fall. It's just different times. If you look at Jupiter, Jupiter had a 12-year cycle. Each sign of the zodiac it will be in for a year, and each sign of its own season. But in Jupiter, a day is like, I forget what it is. It's something like 10,000 Earth days. Like it rotates so much. It's so fast. It's moving in 10 hours. It does a whole rotation in 10 hours for the day. But there's okay, that's it. That's it. And there's about 1,000 some odd days in a year. That's a totally different weather system and nature system. So where this becomes valuable, who knows? This is on the edge of how astrology and science mix together. But there are implications, there are ways of, depends on how refined you get your thinking, how well you develop your basics and how well you build up your pyramid of knowledge to be able to use this insight. But this information was never available before. I think these charts stand out as our kind of next level spiritual, like our next higher level to our soul or to our spirit before we jump up to being kind of one. So like different frequencies, different levels of consciousness, different beings, different planes of experience. But so most people go along trying to get laid, trying to eat something, trying to work. They're working on a very animal level. They're not thinking on these. They're going on, but you're not listening to them. You got to be sensitive to develop an awareness to listen to these inner factors. But this is just laying the information out so it's there on a chart. And you might see something, what's that? And you might have to go and look and see exactly what it is and check it out more in a program. This would be easier to set up. I started these chart forms back in the 70s, but again, they said they couldn't be printed. They took too long to be printed. It was too expensive to color print, 4 colors, plates, everything was, you're talking $20,000 to get a book 100 pages. So now it's available. I'm able to put them in these videos and get this material out. Okay, so there's the heliocentric with the constellations, or the heliocentric with the stars. Same thing, so you can watch the planets touching different stars. You can see the nodes and different points touching stars. Like here, if you look at this chart here, where the cursor is, you see Pluto's at its closest point to the sun, at the same point that Neptune's at its furthest point away from the sun, around 15 degrees Scorpio. What does that mean? Well, it means for 22 years out of every 250 years, or every 500 years, Pluto ends up being the innermost planet and Neptune's the outermost planet. This happened for us in the last 20 years of the 20th century. Neptune was the furthest outer planet and Pluto was closer. This was happening as the internet was made and the world was changing. And Pluto's moving really fast then and Neptune's moving really slow. So Pluto takes 12 years to go through a sign, and when it's going through the opposite sign, when it's furthest away from the sun, it takes 38 years to go through Taurus. Whoa, big difference from 12. So when you get the different speeds added into this, it's different speeds when it touches a star, when things are going by. There's such a great texture of things to learn. But like anything, you'd have to really get it well, you'd have to set up the layers and the levels and the worksheets to work on these levels. I haven't set up the worksheets for this. This is it's too far out, but it's coming. And these pattern types, the heliocentric pattern types, they make a special pattern. They have their own special pattern too. If you take away the signs and all that other information, you still have the stress factors between the planets and the shapes of it. Yeah, so it's just the same thing bigger. But the diversity of how these come up, it's quite incredible. They have quite an incredible story. And really, then you can do the heliocentric charts. There's 3 types of heliocentric charts. This one, Well, the ones we did up here with the standard aspects, just squares are red, oppositions are red, trines are blue. So here's a short trine. There's a really short trine between Mercury and the Earth. There's a big opposition. There's a big square. The space is not the same thing with it's not just angular as it is in a geocentric chart. So, okay, we're going along. This is the second type of heliocentric chart where each planet sets up the color of the sign it's in. And every aspect is a two-color line. So here Uranus to Jupiter is a green-blue aspect. Okay, whereas Neptune to Saturn is a red-purple aspect. And you can start to see those. Yeah, you get different patterns and different ways of working out of it. So this comes up. Yeah, went in closer to it again, where you can see these pattern types a little bit more. And you can look at one planet. There's the Earth. If you put a circle around the Earth, you have your normal geocentric chart. But if you take the perspective, look from the soul or the sun, without giving too much importance to your own separativeness, the world, the universe becomes a different place. You're looking from your heart more than your head. So, yeah, so this puts it back out again, and then I think it shows you the heliocentric Rorschach tests, or the cosmic stamp. And here's a closer up of it. So here's another with the planets and just the aspects. No signs, no other stuff. But even there's a special energy. Different colors, different textures, different depth perceptions. What a symbol. So if your natal chart is your symbol of your ego in your life, your separativeness in your life, this is probably an idea of the stress patterns around your soul. It's still not the soul that's detached from everything. It's still the individual soul working in life, but it still have a higher frequency of tension going on. And there are struggles you probably have to deal with as you're becoming from the world, going to an initiate or going to a higher level of consciousness. These things might have a stronger play. This is the third type of heliocentric chart of aspects. And I like this one. It takes the sun, there's a beam of light that goes out for the sun for the sign each planet's in. So here Pluto and Neptune are in Taurus. So this red-orange line goes out from the sun to Neptune and Pluto. Saturn's in Scorpio, so this blue-green line goes out to Saturn. The Earth is in Aquarius. The Sun is in Leo. Okay, so the purple line goes out from the Sun to the Earth. The blue line, indigo line, goes out to the Mars. The purple line goes out to the Aquarius, to Saturn and Aquarius. And here the Mercury here is in Pisces, so it would have a burgundy line or a crimson line going out to that. And the Venus is in Gemini, so it would have the line going to that. But his Mercury and Venus were in Cancer in the natal chart. But his Mercury in Cancer, when I went to spiritually, was more Pisces. His Venus, when I went to higher things, it was more in Gemini and curious, but in the world, it was much more Cancer oriented. So there's steps of going up to these levels, but it's hard to maintain your focus up on this level. You go up to it, you touch the stars, you touch the heliocentric chart. But in this chart, the Earth also sends off, it has a mixture of the heliocentric and geocentric chart. So the Earth is sending off, like here in this, the Sun had a blue-green line going to Saturn, but from the Earth, it's a green line because Saturn's still in Libra from the Earth. And you can see how the amber lines go to Mercury and Venus, but from the Sun, it's burgundy and it's orange. So you get two color lines. Here Saturn is both in Aquarius from the Sun and from the Earth. And same way with Neptune and Pluto, they're both in Taurus, so the same color. So you get this double color thing, and then it's shaded for Leo. It's given a yellow shade for Leo. And you get a star shape out of it. So this is a third type of heliocentric chart. Oh, I do have a closer one of it. Okay, I'm sorry. I just